Vulnerability is powerful. It's not about oversharing or sympathy. It's just about showing up authentically, even when it's really hard to. If you ever wondered or worried about how vulnerability fits into business, then I think this is for you. Today, I'm going to be exploring how vulnerability can actually be a strength and why it's worth the risk. Please know it's a risk that I am currently taking and continue to take. The first thing that I thought about and have really been trying to understand is why vulnerability is seen as a weakness, especially in business. What I really came to realize is that corporate culture historically has valued toughness and lack of emotion or emotionlessness, if that's even a word. Basically, just all of these practices rooted in cutthroat business has been a major thing in our history. On top of that, male dominated leadership has perpetuated the idea that showing emotion made you weak or an easy target. Men, but unfortunately, the patriarchy has had a lot to do with the way that emotions are handled in business. A lot of times, it is in those male dominated spaces that vulnerability is seen as a weakness and as a way to exploit somebody instead of as a way to gain traction, compassion, and connection in business. So the corporate world wasn't built with vulnerability in mind. It was built on competition, where emotions are seen as a liability, but times are shifting. And we're starting to see that emotions have a place in creating healthier and more human work environments. That's the part that makes it really powerful is we're starting to meet people where they're at instead of trying to force them into this box to fit an idea or an ideal that we think should exist when it comes to business. Although, yes, there is some separation in business, it's still being ran by humans. If we take the humanity out of business, if we take the humanity out of everything that we do, we end up in a lot of these toxic spaces because we're not being considerate of the actual people involved. That's the piece that made me sit back and start to lean into the fact that maybe there is room for being raw and messy and about how I'm feeling and recording even when I'm not feeling the best. I felt like I had to look, be, and sound a certain way before I could even turn on the camera and press record. That's not the case. I felt the same when it came to trying to build my business, being a content creator. A lot of people don't take you seriously because it's just, oh, you just sit there and shoot videos and listen to yourself talk. That's not it at all. I'm really trying to build a community in a space where people don't have to hide as much. There's still some stuff that you should keep to yourself. I do feel like there are some moments and things that should always remain private, but it doesn't mean that you can't be vulnerable and share in a way that's meaningful and authentic and doesn't seem like you're just doing it for clicks. To me, that's what makes vulnerability really powerful. It reminds us that we're all human. We all feel the same things at some point. So this can lead to stronger support systems and more trust in the workplace or in business partnerships, or even if you're like me and you're a solopreneur, like with your community. Now, there's still definitely risks and rewards when it comes to vulnerability. These are all things that we have to think through and work through as we're navigating this space. In this space, even though there's plenty of people that are doing it in terms of working for themselves, building their own businesses, things like that, it is still very new. It is still very uncharted. Even though we've seen plenty of people do it, it's just not the same path for everybody. I think that's something in walking this path that I've had to constantly remind myself of is that my path is not the same as everyone else's. Can I take certain steps? Can I match energies? Can I do some of the same actions that I've seen other people do, mentors, friends, people that I look up to, things like that? Sure. But it's still a singular path. It might run parallel to some people. It might look the same as other people, but it's just simply not the same. That's the part of being more open and sharing more that I feel makes it worth it. As a woman, being vulnerable is often seen as being too sensitive. So you see a lot of women in the online space, in the wellness space, who are thriving in their self made businesses. But then you also see a lot of people hit walls, burn out, and even have scandals. I get so baffled when I see people that have taken advantage of the fact that sharing your emotion connects people and gets them to trust you. So you come into this really tight balance that you have to keep, because now sharing your messy sides doesn't instantly mean that people are going to trust you or want to work with you. You have to build that trust and work hard to ensure that people don't feel taken advantage of just because you're shedding a tear or sharing very private information that doesn't equate to immediate trust. But it does allow a conversation to start. It does open a door for that to build. I think that's the main thing I'm trying my best to operate in when it comes to being more open about things going on with me. It's a thing I've wrestled with because vulnerability can lead to being overlooked or underestimated in high pressure situations. I've had moments where being vulnerable meant people assumed I couldn't handle the pressure. I've been told, we're concerned that you can't have hard conversations. And that's frustrating, but it's also taught me when and how to stand firm in my truth. I think that's the piece of this when it comes to being a creator and trying to build a business as a creator. That fine balance is me being vulnerable does not mean that I'm weak, and it does not mean that I can't handle what's going on. I can, but understand that I'm still a human. I'm still a person, and I have feelings, family, friends, relationships, and things that I have to balance, as well as just existing myself. So to choose a path of how I would like to earn my livelihood by sharing aspects of myself that I normally wouldn't have, especially as a millennial. Like, I've come from an age where you only got to see very curated aspects of someone's life because the internet wasn't as open and available as it is now. You had to pay for advertisements. You had to, pay for television spots, and you had to use other means of communication to access people in order to get them to see and understand pieces of you. You could really work to curate a persona. Now I could put a camera on 24/7. Sometimes I feel like reality TV kind of took the wind out of vulnerabilities because you start to see the cracks and flaws in people and we immediately tear it down instead of realizing that we should appreciate the things that creators put together and curate, but also that they're human. We shouldn't put people on pedestals in a way that takes away that humanity. I feel like there are parts of sharing myself online that scare me because I don't want to be seen as inauthentic. I don't want to be seen as somebody who is doing it just because I want the attention, because that's not it. It's obvious that choosing to do an online business nowadays requires you to do stuff to get people's attention. The way to get people's attention is measured a lot of times outside of the obvious things of, okay, what's the product or experience that you're providing people that makes me want to stay, that makes me want to engage, that makes me want to spend my money. But it's difficult to find the balance. I don't necessarily want to be known for something scandalous, because you see that people blow up online simply because they're causing friction. I see it all the time on TikTok or Instagram where it's like, don't go to their page, don't leave mean comments and stuff like that, don't do all this stuff, because you're still adding to their numbers. I always have this small fear of I'm going to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, or someone's going to take something out of context, and I'm going to get this flood of engagement, but it's not going to be the type of engagement that I'm looking for. How do I prepare for that?